online broadcast network, AfterBuzz TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment. AfterBuzz TV, the destination for TV superfans. Producing aftershows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows, interviewing celebrities and showrunners, and bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
Hey there, fans! You've called the right place. It's AfterBuzz TV's Better Call Saul after show. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm your host, Zach Wilson, and I'm so excited to talk about Switch, the season premiere of the second season of Better Call Saul. Now, before we get started, you can follow AfterBuzz TV in all the different places. On iTunes, you can find us. You can find us on YouTube, youtube.com/AfterBuzzTV, at AfterBuzzTV, on Twitter, on Instagram, and you can find me at that Zach Wilson. Now, let me introduce my fantastic panel for this evening. Steve Lemieux's back.
I'm back! Oh, I'm so excited. I forgot how amazing this show was until I sat down to watch it. And I was like, oh, it's so good.
I mean,
I've been watching Breaking Bad while I'm running on the treadmill, and it's just so many subtleties pop up with this show, remind me of Breaking Bad, make me excited, but then, like, watching this episode just got me right back into it. So excited.
So good. And joining us this season will be Lacretia Lyon.
Hey guys, if you can spell my name right, and it's really difficult, so I understand, but it's Lacretialyon, yes, like Empire. But yeah, you can find me all over the web at Lacretia Lyon, and yeah, I'm super jazzed about this show as well, because Saul
Lacretia,
and Mike.
So give people a little bit of backstory on you. Were you a big Breaking Bad fan?
Oh yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I was the biggest, since that title is, coveted like a WWE belt. But yeah, to me, Saul and Mike were my favorite characters throughout the show. So to get them their own spinoff, and especially Bob Odenkirk, I've always been a big fan. So
yeah, I mean, when I getting ready for the new season to premiere, I went back and I rewatched all of season 1 in about 2 days.
That was
even
my
then,
weekend.
I started watching. I think I was on episode 3 and I started watching, and then all of a sudden I stopped and I was on episode 9. I don't know how. I didn't know how I got there, but I did. It was just because Netflix. It's just like it just rolls. It's such a clean series. There's so few, if any, problems with the series at all. It's fine. It's a fine-tuned piece of art.
Let me ask you, because I think a lot of our audience caught up on this show from Netflix, from when it was released on Netflix. Going from watching it once a week to watching them all at once on Netflix, how well does it just kind of traverse into each episode from season 1?
That's what I'm saying, so smoothly that I didn't even notice that I had watched 6 episodes in a single sitting.
Oh man.
Yeah, to me, it's one of those shows, just like Breaking Bad, where binge watching is just the way to do it. Although, I can't wait, to certainly when doing this show to watch it every week. But yeah, to watch all the episodes together. It's just,
and I think there's a little bit of, I think that smoothness is continuing on. Like once we keep that going with season 2, it was pretty seamless in terms of like the last episode of season 1 into this episode, Switch, because we literally left off before, instance before actually we ended season 1, because we went back, we saw him driving away, and then we went back and saw inside the courthouse and the offer from Davis and Maine. That's why if that scene in the toll booth felt familiar to anyone, it's because it was literally, they just replayed the scene to show you the context of when that was happening. But first, overall thoughts of the premiere. What'd you guys think?
I really loved that it started out just like the last season with the weird Cinnabon, his sort of odd job that we see, and just the same sort of almost indie movie style opening. And then, yeah, like you said, it's basically exactly where they left off. Just sort of replaying, so we all know, even though every single person that watched this show probably binge watched it this weekend.
I think what's really great about how they brought it back to present day Jimmy McGill as Gene working at a Cinnabon in Omaha is we're really seeing the cause and effect here. You're really like, you can really look at all of his decisions that he's making in this show and piecing together how they lead to where he is now. Because you could really look at it like, okay, he's going back to Slippy. He gets back to Slip and Jimmy a little bit this episode. Yeah. And I was so excited. And I talked to Zach halfway through the episode. Man, he's back to Slip and Jimmy. Zach's like, just wait. And I'm like, oh, he goes to the farm.
Well, we'll talk about that and like where he is in terms of the lines between Slip and Jimmy to Saul to Jimmy McGill. And I mean, this episode for me it's a perfectly seamless continuation. And that opening, and like, so let's dig into this. The opening, it's exactly the same way we kicked off season 1. Is this just going back into the present day or the future, depending on how you want to look at this whole show, in terms of like Breaking Bad and everything. But this is, I guess it's showing the futility, sort of, like, of everything that is the show Better Call Saul. All the hard work that we're witnessing, all the like the blood, sweat, and tears that we're rooting. We're like, yeah, get that job, get the girl, like, get it all. And we're like, but we know in the back of our minds, and this is a reminder, this will all end in tears.
And I think that's what I love about the show is, I mean, if we didn't even have the Omaha, flash forwards, what do you say? We know that Saul obviously is still, part more like Slip and Jimmy, kind of this combo guy, that he's not this sort of three-dimensional character when we see him in Breaking Bad that he is on this show. We're seeing the different layers to Saul and how he got there, like especially with this relationship with Kim, which was really important in this episode, and I'm sort of wondering how this blows up in his face.
Yeah. I mean, that's the interesting, especially with stuff like Kim, it's going to be interesting to see how that progresses, knowing that it doesn't, at least there's no happily ever after for them. In the black and white scene, there was a little Easter egg, yes. Really tiny. I mean, on the wall because he carved the SG was here. If you looked really closely, one of the graffitis said, "Whisker Stays blows." Whisker Stays is a fast food restaurant that is in the same family as Los Pollos Hermanos.
Oh, really?
Super tiny little Easter egg.
That is...
It's deep, but that's the detail that they've put in. Like, that was like an offhanded remark of a line that they set up in Breaking Bad, and they're like, well, we're doing graffiti. Just write this one there.
Can I ask you guys something? Because this is kind of my thought process for seeing the present day time of Jimmy McGill, James McGill, Saul Goodman, whatever you want to call him.
Well, there's three. There's four. There's four. There's Jimmy. There's Slip and Jimmy. Then there's Jimmy McGill. Then there's Saul Goodman, and then there's Gene.
And he's all these people.
So seeing Gene, what I really kind of see them taking with this series is, let's play for as many seasons as we can in the past, and let's build the present, and let's show you where he is in the present, because he could have a comeback. Due to statute of limitations, couldn't Saul Goodman come back?
In terms of, like, if we went forward past Gene?
Yeah, in terms of, let's say we get 4 to 5 seasons of Better Call Saul as before Breaking Bad, and then they just have post Breaking Bad becomes the seasons.
Well, it's interesting because, like, listening to different quotes from Vince Gilligan and Peter Gould, the showrunners, about like what they're like over time. It's sort of, I don't know that this series went where they expected it to, because when they first started talking about it, I think, and they talked a little bit about this last night on Talking Saul. They and even Bob Odenkirk thought like, oh, it's going to be like Case of the Week, like a lawyer show solving different criminal cases as Saul Goodman, and that would have been a fun show. No doubt that would have been a fun thing to watch. And then they just got in, and when you have people like Peter and Vince running a show, they're like, oh, well, this would be better. And what if we did this and this and this? And then it becomes a different thing than I think they even set out to be. They did say during first season that the show is going to play with time a little more, and they were very vague on that, and it hasn't yet. We've other than the black and white flash forwards and then going back to 2002, we haven't really dealt with any shifts in time yet. That doesn't mean we won't. So we could. I mean, in theory, if they run out of room in the journey towards Breaking Bad and they want to keep going, that's a cool idea. They could just jump forward to Gene.
I think one of the things is when you do a prequel series, you put yourself in a bit of a box. And once they've built this show to the point where everyone already loves all these characters, and they love, I mean, we already love Bob Odenkirk, we love Jimmy McGill, Slippin' Jimmy, but when you do so much that you start getting upon the area where everyone's like, oh, I know that this is going to happen next. Oh, I know this has to happen for him to get here. I know that this has to happen for him to get here. It stops being fun. So I think that would be the point. Once they hit that, it's like, okay, now we've laid these little Easter eggs and laid this groundwork for let's continue Saul Goodman post Breaking Bad, where we can continue a show and nobody knows what's going to happen and we can have fun with it.
Yeah, I mean, there's an argument to be had for just when you reach Breaking Bad, like that's where you end the series, and you don't necessarily, and that's a good thing. And I think AMC is totally on board with whatever their creators want to do. This isn't The Walking Dead. Like The Walking Dead could go on forever if they wanted it to, because it's such a huge ensemble show that it's not reliant on one character's arc. But if Jimmy's arc gets into Saul's and they're just done with his story, and they could very well be done with his story, then they can stop.
So Brianna, I watched the first half of the episode with my girlfriend, and it was interesting because she's just like, it's stupid. Why doesn't he just go out the emergency exit? Well, she understands the whole backstory and everything, but she's just like, he could just drive off. He could just run out of there and leave. And I'm like, you know, on the outside, that seems like the wisest choice, but then you look at it and you're like, what's more suspicious? Somebody opening an emergency exit and running off, or somebody staying? Either way, the cops are going to want to talk to you. And either way, they're going to find out who you are.
Yeah. Well, they're going to go and talk to him and question him. Like, you could... I mean, what do you guys think? Should he have opened the door and just gotten out, or was it smart to wait?
I think it was smart to wait, because the thing is, even if he got away, they'd be looking at the cameras, wondering what's going on. So, and, I don't know how Omaha police are, but most police in small places like that will jump on anything. So they would start investigating this guy because, it's Omaha. I doubt that there's much crime other than meth.
See, here's the thing. I think the cops wouldn't bother investigating. The risk is there's a manhunt for Saul Goodman / Jimmy McGill at this point. In theory, there's like an APB out to like, this guy's a wanted criminal. If they recognized him, there's a reason he's in Omaha. Like, nobody's like, oh yeah, he's gonna run away to Omaha. But it all would take is one cop to lay eyes on him and recognize a mugshot of Jimmy, and he's done.
I really liked how they set the stage for this episode, though, because you have a guy who's locked in a room with a clear exit, and he decides to do the lawful, or he decides to go with the rules and stay. It kind of just follows this entire episode. He rips off the little label on the light switch. He is against doing things like that. He always was playing it so loose, and in this episode he goes back to Slipping Jimmy, but then he always comes back.
Yeah, here's the difference is, like, he was totally willing to pull there's two switches. This episode is bookended by switches.
Yeah.
He doesn't, as Gene, he does not push that button. As Jimmy,
he does.
He doesn't even hesitate. He's just like, this says not to do this thing. Rip, click.
But Saul comes back when he still makes his mark by scraping it into the wall.
Yeah.
So he will do it. He will bow to the powers that be to avoid getting arrested, but he's not going to go to the point where he's not going to do something that just lets him let out a little steam of that Slippin' Jimmy. And
absolutely.
That's him scraping his name in. Because as much as going through the doors could facilitate him getting caught, so could scratching his name in the thing.
Yeah.
But, it's the lesser choice. I don't know.
Well, and I think he likes to ride that line. Like,
yeah.
He's not going to open the door because it's got this, but of course he has to do something because Slipping Jimmy is always there in the back of his mind. And we see him go back and forth throughout the episode, like with the, the Ken scene and with Kim, and how he's sort of changed at the end, really wanting her to be there. Because there is this really good person there in Jimmy. Yeah. That, he does like to do the right thing.
Well, let's talk about that, because like I'd called this section of my notes "Jimmy Slips Back," but He does. Like we picked up with him turning down this amazing offer for like the job he's been working towards. Like, yes, it's not at HHM alongside his brother, but it's the job. It's the same job at a different company. And it's there on a silver platter for him. He's going to be working on the case that he scraped and like put all this effort into. He's going to have like a huge salary in theory and all these benefits to it, and he turns it down, basically because he doesn't know if he wants it anymore after the falling out with Chuck.
Yeah, and to me, that was just such a human scene. I mean, how many of us have been in that position where we're literally getting everything we want, but we're not sure if we really wanted that this whole time? Because he's worked, I mean, seemingly, as we see, like years to build up to this person after, you know, getting arrested and things like this. And then when it's handed to him, he turns it down at first.
But he doesn't turn it down right away. Mm-hmm. He talks to Rhea Seehorn.
Yeah, well, because I think in his mind, it would all be worth it. Like any troubles he would have if he got to be with Kim, because we could see all of season 1, like he cares for Kim a lot. But if so, like he'll deal with it. Like even if he doesn't want to do that job, if that's what it took to get Kim, he'd do it. But
if it doesn't matter.
Yeah. No. And she says the two things are not connected. Of course, that's not entirely true. That's like, it's girl code, dude. Read between the lines, Jimmy.
I don't know. I think there's something to be said for what she meant, in that whether he's a lawyer there or doing something else, it's not going to affect whether he has a relationship with her or not. But what I think he didn't realize at the time, which after doing the pool thing, is you can't have somebody be spending all their time working towards something, and then somebody else just be the free-spirited, I don't care what's going to happen. I'm fine with whatever. Because you already see him calling her multiple times. It's like, that's not cool, dude. You can't have one focus in your life be your significant other. You can't. You need to balance that out with work or something.
Yeah, well, that's the other, but it's also that turning down the Davis and Maine job, it's not about that he turned down that job. It's what turning down that job signifies. Like turning down a golden opportunity says a lot about who you are and what you see as your future.
Yeah.
And to me, she just wanted him to live up to his potential. Like she said, you know, it's not whether you're here or there or wherever, like just turning down that job shouldn't have meant laying around on a pool all day. Like if he did that and went to work for like the NRDC or something else, like then she would have still been okay, or you know.
That's How I Met Your Mother reference thrown in there.
It's a real thing. It's in Santa Monica.
No, that's a TV thing. It doesn't exist. Anyway, but so then he slips back. He truly does go back to slipping Jimmy, like down to faking his, like stealing from hotels, like scamming people. I mean, it seemed sort of natural as a reaction. Like when something bad happens, you slip back to when you felt most comfortable.
Well, and once a con, always a con. So that is like a personality trait that people who've had to live that lifestyle, I mean, and we all know people, that's how they've gotten through life. Whether big or small, you learn how to manipulate, you learn how to con people. And that's the thing. That's why he's such a good lawyer, because that's part of that job. While legally, he's doing it, it's still the same thing. So he has to be manipulating the situation in some capacity. So that's why he slips back. But
he just wants to feel good at something.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a great lawyer, yes, but when he's surrounded by other people who are great lawyers, like, okay.
He's not special.
But when he is with a great lawyer and he can do this and it's impressive to her, and I mean, it's not exactly a great precedent when this is the first time he does it with her and they sleep together because of it. So, I mean, that's going to be something that weighs on his mind in the future as well. Like, okay, if I can continue to sleep with the girl of my dreams and I'm sick of this boring job because at least I've tried it, like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, if Kim was going to... Do you think if he thought Kim would have stayed with him, that he would have gone back to... Like, if she was going to stay with him, even if he just kept scamming people and doing his own thing, would he have taken the job eventually of his own volition? Or was taking the job just for Kim?
I mean, he says it when he talks to Jonathan Banks. What's his character? No, of course
Mike.
his character's Mike. Like, what am I thinking? His name changed? God, I hate myself for that. He says it. He says, I had $1.6 million on my desk. Nobody knew. I could have done whatever. Why did I do it? It's because you said something about doing the right thing.
You said something about doing the right thing.
It wasn't about that at all. It was for her. It was for her. That was the only reason he did it, was because it was for her.
Yep.
And after that, like, having that money and knowing that, like, do you want to take that job that's just going to be droning and doing that? Like, when you just lived for the first time in however long since you moved to Albuquerque by having that money on your desk. You know, you got to be sure. And I think that was great that he pulls her aside and says, look, do we have a future together, whether I do this or not? Because he still wants to do his dastardly doings, I'm sure. I think he just didn't want to go back to having that $1.6 million and making a choice that is dependent on somebody else. Like, if he knows that she's in no matter what, then I think he would have kept the money.
Yeah. That's a good point.
He only gave the money back for her because, you know, his doing the right thing, you know, he tried to say it's for his brother, but really it's for her.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, and that's the thing, I think, especially last season, and then this season, it was more clearly, like, about her making the decision to take the job with Davison Maine. Was very much about Kim, but also, like, there is a sort of sense of right and wrong that Jimmy has. Like, Jimmy McGill has a sense of right and wrong. Like, there was a lot that went into the money last season. Like, that was, like, that was how he was going to get Nacho out of jail.
Yeah.
So he was going to help his client. He was going to help Kim and her client at the same time. In a way, like, even though that's not what they wanted, it was helping them. And it was, as he said, it's the right thing to do. It's only later when the world, like, is like, oh yeah, you did the right thing, but screw you anyway, that he really starts to learn. Like, that's when we see him sliding or slipping towards Saul Goodman.
Yeah, and I really liked that they showed this transition because the Jimmy McGill we saw last season, you know, you really like this guy, this three-dimensional guy who, you know, yes, he was slipping Jimmy, but he's into elder law. He really wants to help these old people. And it's kind of sweet, you see. I mean, because it's not all about Kim and his brother. He does have this good guy inside him. But I think, you know, after his brother screwed him over, you know, he was so distraught in a way that he's like, then why am I doing the right thing? Like, most people have a crisis of faith when they get screwed royally.
Yeah. No, it definitely happens. And well, let's talk about like his slip back, because that was such a fun sequence. Because Kim is basically like, why are you doing? This is not sustainable. You can't do this forever. So you have to start building. Like, he's not a young man anymore. Like, he can't just do this and then figure it out later. Like, he's at the point in his life where he has to start figuring out what the rest is going to look like. And he'd be just as happy with scamming people. And then he shows her
how fun
what
it
it's
is,
like, what it's like, how good it can be. And this was another big Breaking Bad reference from season 1. Ken Wins, who Walter White blew up his car after he was a dick.
Stamp it.
And so yeah, we see this character again in an earlier iteration.
I think it's great.
Scammed by Jimmy.
It was a slow realization, which I think is the best. Like, when you see a character who's like, this guy's being really annoying, it's like, wait a second, that's that guy. And it gives you, this is why they're smart, because unlike Zoolander 2, which if you see it, or if you haven't seen it, don't, like, the cameos are just so on the nose. Like, it's just so, here's a person, here's a joke from the past movie. This one was, like, so subtle that it creeps up on you until you realize because it has been
the Easter eggs
7 years since they had that episode.
Yeah, the Easter eggs are not gratuitous. That's the difference. Is because this guy was not... this wasn't bringing in Badger, like a young Badger. Like, that would have felt gratuitous, depending on how they used him. They might be able to get away with it.
This was one episode.
It was a random guy that they just like were like, we need a D-bag for this scene. Why not make him a D-bag? A couple people are going to recognize. Even the tequila. Like, that brand is from Breaking Bad. Don Eladio received it as a gift from Gus Fring in season 4. And it was this, like, very nice gift to him as they were presenting he was presenting the idea of the whole meth ring. And so, like, it's all that it could have just been an expensive bottle of liquor. Instead, they were like, well, this tiny little thing that they know their fans are going to care about, they put in there.
And we're all detail-oriented weirdos. We're like, oh, the little bits, like, and with Kyle Bornheimer, you're just like, this guy you literally could have recognized from anything, but only Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul fans are going to recognize him from that one episode.
I think the cool thing is they've built such a universe in this town of Albuquerque that, like, you could even, one episode, you could have Saul and, Jimmy and Rhea going to the car wash, and you see Walt working there. Like, you could literally just see him working there, because he worked there for a long time before he quit.
Yeah.
Like, you could have characters in their respective positions before the instances of Breaking Bad, because it would make sense.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, I don't necessarily want to see Walter White or Jesse Pinkman in this series.
But you know that they're doing that right
We
now.
know that they're around, but because it wouldn't inform anything more about their characters.
Yeah.
Like, it's unnecessary. But, like, screw over Ken Wins for probably a grand at least.
Yeah,
like,
$50 shots.
It's it's like a 750 milliliter bottle. Like, they killed it. Like, they drank it down. So, like, how many shots are in it? Like, in a bottle of liquor? Like, 20?
32, I think. No, not 32.
No,
I forget. It was
either way.
Bar Rescue had it.
Let's just assume that it's 15. Then you're looking at $750
just for that.
if they
And
each
got
did
food.
5 shots. The food's almost irrelevant at that point.
Right?
But yeah, I mean, it's a great scam, and it's so adrenaline pumping for Kim when they take on these identities of Giselle and Victor with a K, St. Clair. Victor and Giselle St. Clair.
Like, they really look like, well, and I'm like, I'm the one saying that, and my name's Lacretia Lyon, but yeah, it's like, they clearly do not look like a Victor with a K and a Giselle St. Clair. I mean, they're a little bit more middle-class people, so to me, it's like, shows what a dumbass Ken is, like, to really believe this story. I mean, they're really good at selling it, but, you know, I'd be a little suspicious if I'm this smart Wall Street guy, you know, supposed to be
Blinded by greed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
$1.4 million coming from people who don't know what to do with it. Why do you think people who win the lottery don't keep their money very long?
Because no.
Yeah, looking at Mr. Daniel Wormald. Like, there's a lot of this greed going around and how people badly spend their mony.
I mean, greed in the Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul universe
is a big
theme. It's like, if you just if you got what you needed and got out,
you would be
most of the problems that these characters have faced would not have been an issue.
Yeah, like, every time they just keep going.
Like, if the Kettlemans last season had just decided, you know what, we got caught, let's turn the cash back over and, like, deal with it. Like,
yeah, take a deal. I mean, they would have been fine.
Yeah, I mean, which eventually they did, basically. But so, like, they're so they go, like, Jimmy and Kim go have their night, and then they, like, as soon as they get up, they just, like, it's like they finish the scam, then boom, sex. It was great.
The scene after they wake up is great, though, because it just shows that they do have the history, they have that chemistry, and it just, that is how a couple acts. Like, that doesn't seem like two actors together, that just seems like two people who just are so comfortable with each other. So I really like that they included that, because they could have very easily just cut that out.
Yeah. Question for you guys, and I want to know from the chat roll too. Is it gross to share your lover's toothbrush?
Yes.
It is, and mention How I Met Your Mother again. Remember when they all shared the toothbrush at one point? I mean, how gross was that? Not just Marshall and Lily who share
Let's
everything.
stay on Better
but,
Call Saul.
I know, it's just like, but yeah, like think about it. Like it's gross enough to borrow your significant others or your moms or whatever, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't do that.
Just use your finger. I mean,
or use your significant other's
That
finger.
was such an adorable moment. Like it was just like these two like each other. Like this is like not just like a hookup. Like hey, these two characters like got drunk
and they had sex.
And, yeah, no, these are like these two like they get along. They play off each other. This is what love looks like.
And if you don't want this after show to just be a hookup or a one night stand, if you want to know what love looks like, you guys should go to iTunes. Look for Better Call Saul AfterBuzz. Leave us a comment and a 5-star rating. We'll give you a shout out. We had somebody before the season began leave us a review. They were obviously getting caught up. Donald Blake, MD.
Thor is watching.
Oh, wow.
That's Thor.
Is that Thor?
Donald Blake is one of Thor's alter identities.
Better Call Saul AfterBuzz.
I didn't catch that.
As usual, AfterBuzz TV knocks it out of the park. Finally got around to watching Breaking Bad, got hooked, and watched BCS Season 1 in preparation for Season 2. Listening to ABTV podcasts always enhances my enjoyment of shows, and this is no exception. Keep up the awesome work. Thank you for the review. Obviously, our relationship with Donald Blake, MD, is not just a hookup.
Yeah.
I would brush my teeth with his finger.
Well, just like I don't think that this was Donald Blake's first after show. I don't think this was the first time that Jimmy and Kim have hooked up.
What do you think, Lacretia?
Yeah, to me, just the way that they acted after that scene, that is not a first-time hookup. I mean, it was just so real of two people. But yeah, I mean, they had to have had a thing back when he worked for his brother. I mean, and I think that's why he's so in love with her. And I feel like that may have been what prompted him to ask that question, because maybe that's why they broke up in the past, is, he wasn't this big-time lawyer. He's just, Jimmy McGill in the, manicure salon. But, I'm just curious to see how that, ended or was kind of on a break. I mean, I don't know how these things work, but it's pretty obvious that they had something in the past.
Yeah, well, there's a little bit of a gap in our backstory on Jimmy, because we've flashed back to the time where they were both in the mailroom, and it was Kim was very like she kissed Jimmy like in the closet, or her office was a closet, I believe. I guess she wasn't in the mailroom at the time. Either way.
Yeah, she was just probably a junior associate.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know how law firms work exactly, but. Then she was congratulating him and everything, and I wonder but where we lose it is after HHM says no, we don't want to hire you, after Hamlin delivers the message, which came from Chuck, we learn later, we don't know where he goes from there. Does he just sink into a massive depression which tanks whatever relationship they had? Like, I could see that happening, where he just sort of like wanders away in a drunken stupor, basically, and then and then winds up with an office in the back of a
nail salon.
Nail salon.
And that's, to me, is like, we can see the pieces there. I just would like to see them fill that in, because we can assume that he went into a drunken stupor, slipped back into Slippin' Jimmy this time. Just there's a lot of pieces that we're guessing, but I just like to actually see what happened to them and why they're back in this place.
Yeah, Dave G who's joining us in the chat roll points out, and I do remember hearing something. I think this number was right. That last night Vince Gilligan said that there is a 10-year history of one sort or another between these two characters. We don't know how long that goes back. We don't know if they went to college together, obviously not at the University of American Samoa college, but or like high school or anywhere. We don't know what their exact history is, so it would be very interesting to see if they're going to give that to us at some point.
Yeah, because I would have assumed that her character maybe grew up in Albuquerque or something. There has been no hint that they knew her before, so that's interesting to see that I guess I didn't catch that when I watched Talking Saul, the 10-year relationship that's kind of been
I can't remember if it was 10, but they definitely said that they have a longer history than we've seen.
I know why they call it Talking Dead, like it rhymes with Walking Dead, like Talking Saul though.
Yeah, he said it was like
I
there
just
were
think
so many options.
In the clever department, somebody didn't show up to work that day.
I mean, the talking is a brand at this point. Like it's not even like, because it was Talking Bad. as well. It's
And
like,
I think he said
we get
it could have been better talk Saul, or a couple other things he threw out, but that
the one that I heard,
this.
not from Chris Hardwick, but from someone else, calling Saul.
Oh, I kind of like that.
Would have been a good one. Go with that one, Chris Hardwick. No, I'm not hating on that.
It's a great show.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, these two clearly have a connection. So, any other thoughts on Jimmy and Kim that we didn't touch on? Because I want to talk about Daniel Wormald.
Oh, Daniel. That was some of the best moments, because I love Mike, and he was like, I'm not getting in that.
I mean, he was great in season 1. The actor who played Daniel.
Every time this guy said the words baseball cards.
Baseball cards.
Which I did have a flashback to Cop Out.
Yes.
And Bruce Willis constantly saying baseball card. But this guy, the way he said it was so funny. And he starts off the episode with the dumbest decision ever. Like, he pulls up in that frickin' Hummer, because it was 2002. Hummers were super popular. Let alone Hummers with spinners and flames.
And white people getting these and thinking that they're cool. Especially like super Canadian white people.
Player!
Yeah.
Oh, the license plate.
So bad. So
I
bad.
love that Mike wouldn't budge. He's just like, nope, I'm not getting in that car.
Yeah, no, because you shouldn't.
Yeah.
Because that's how you get identified. Because, like, if you see a black Corolla drive out into the middle of the desert, it's one of 500,000 black Corollas. No one's gonna identify that. You drive up in a flaming, decaled yellow Hummer
With spinning rims. Play a license plate.
You can track that down. You don't take that to a secret drug meet.
Hank Schrader had to knock down 35 RVs to find the right one. How many flaming yellow-red Hummers are there?
At most 2.
See, and this is why, my mother, who's probably watching, thinks Mom, gave me the best advice when I was a teenager. If you're doing something illegal, don't draw attention to yourself. Now, that's some great motherly advice. This guy should have had a mom like mine who told him, hey, don't buy the big yellow Hummer. Buy a black
Prius. He seems like he was a mama's boy.
Yeah.
So, I really like that they brought this character back in the way they did. Because we're really shaping up. We don't need to really recap everything that went through him. The cops found where he was probably hiding the drugs in his house. Because the couch looked like it had been pulled out and everything that was on the floor was moved out of the way from where the couch was pulled out. I love how the cops are just kind of making fun of him.
And
one of the cops was also from Breaking Bad. Officer Saxton was called when Walt broke into his own house and told them, I can't arrest him for breaking into his own house.
Just watch that episode.
Yeah, and Officer Baker, if anybody else is a 90s Flash fan, Officer Baker was Julio. And he was also on Boy Meets World. He was one of their teachers. But, yeah, frickin' Julio from the 90s Flash, which featured none other than, of course, our Walter White himself.
Bryan Cranston.
It's all connected.
Yes,
It's
all of
Saul,
it.
a different
Saul
show.
Goodman. What I like is they brought him back. They separated Mike from him. And now they put him in a position to need a lawyer. So he's gonna need Saul. Sorry, Jimmy. He's gonna need Jimmy. This is my.
Well, he's
prediction.
gonna need Saul, but
he's gonna need Saul.
he's gonna get Jimmy.
So I think it's gonna be so interesting, and this is complete speculation at this point, to have him lawyer up, get Jimmy McGill. And then Jimmy having to work with Mike to help this dude that Mike already left. That's going to be great.
Well, I mean, at the end, he drives up. Or wait, no, that was a preview.
I didn't see it yet.
We'll talk about that after the prediction spoiler wall. We'll talk about that in a little bit. I almost forgot where that fell. But yeah, so, I mean, the cops, he called the cops. I mean, Nacho even said last season, I like ripping off criminals because they can't call the cops.
Yeah.
This guy's just so dumb that he calls cops. He fixes the sofa. He doesn't even mess it up. He doesn't lift a cushion. He puts the throw pillows back. And of course, the cops find the hidey hole, presumably empty.
No.
I think that it's safe to assume it was empty, right?
Yeah, I'm guessing
it was
when he
empty.
didn't get a Schedule 1 charge, yeah.
Yeah. He just skips over the cash, like a bunch of cash.
I got a 90-10 Mickey Rooney in there.
Yeah, what we really got to focus on is the baseball cards.
Baseball cards. I don't care about the money. I care about my baseball cards.
You've got to get this list out to pawn shops. You got to question the usual. Anybody who's been
You go
done
ahead
this
and
kind
make
of
that
crime
list
before.
for us. You make that list for us. The fact that he invited Michael Mandow, invited him into his car. He's like, oh yeah, get in, check it out, check out the car. I'm gonna walk away for a minute while you, like, what?
Well, because he doesn't think like that's what Mike is for. Like he's there for is like those little things that you like, because you forget that your registration has your home address on it. And that it's in the car because there's nothing else in that car. So like he's like, yeah, check out the car. It's a cool car. What could possibly go wrong with him checking out the car?
Mike doesn't do anything though. He just kind of sits there.
He just stands there.
He stands there.
But he watches and prevents Nacho from doing crazy stuff, which is exactly what happens now. And so it'll be interesting to see now that the cops have become involved in this scenario, what happens.
I'm excited.
I think, Steven, I think you were on. I mean, we'll talk about that as we go into predictions in a minute. But any other thoughts on this episode? Or overall thoughts?
Of course, we go to Saul took the job. He took the
job.
job.
Yeah.
He has
the
the
office.
The best office ever.
I love
he's
that
going to get a
painting.
Cocobolo desk.
Yeah.
I looked up what Cocobolo wood looks like. It's not only expensive, it's freaking beautiful.
Yeah, it is just like fantastic wood, like, you know, like you'd think of teak, you know, patio furniture and stuff, but it's like, no, he wants the fancy desk. Because at first he's all like, oh, I'm not going to take it, but I do like this painting. But then,
is Cocobolo
creepy painting.
Is Cocobolo in reference to something previously?
He said it last year. He's like, I really want a Cocobolo desk. When he's looking at the office space with Kim, he just says, I don't know what it is, but I like saying it.
Got it. Okay.
Cocobolo.
yeah.
And then after I looked at pictures, I'm like, yeah, I want Cocobolo.
Yeah, now I want one too.
Is the nail salon the same place where he sets up the Saul Goodman office?
I don't think so. He pretty much just burned that. Oh, you mean like does he go back and buy that strip mall?
Because the parking lot and everything seems oddly familiar every time they film there, and I always feel like it is.
And I think that he tried to sell that space to Jesse or like rent it out. You know, so I think he still has that space because I remember a scene, you know, and I think they've referenced it because I checked Easter eggs, but yeah, that he tries to lease them that space. So I don't know if he's still in the same, you know, parking lot. But,
well, he mentions it when they're trying to launder money. It's like, I got a great nail salon. Like, he mentions the stuff like that. So
I hadn't even thought about that, but it very well might be. I don't think it's the office where he sets up.
But it's the same strip mall.
Business. I don't know if it is. Okay. I mean, it's a strip mall in Albuquerque. It's possible.
Albuquerque's not very big.
It's possible. I didn't notice that. We'll have to do some digging.
Cucumber water is only for customers, Zach.
Yeah, I love that scene. He's just like
flips the tie.
And all the little manicurists are kind of laughing. They're like having a good time. It's pretty funny how he just stood up to her.
Dude, cucumber water is delicious.
It is.
But I freaking love that office. I love that he takes the job, but he's like, but like you can see that even though he's doing this, the rebel, like that little glint of Saul and Slippin' Jimmy is still in there with the light switch. Like, yes, he's gonna take this corporate job, this big law firm with a corporate car. First of all, I'm in the wrong freaking industry. They're like, yeah, if you don't like that car, like, it's not a big deal. We'll just get you a new one. Like, oh, you want like a $5,000 desk? No problem. I'll have it here tomorrow. Like, damn.
See, this is what makes me wish I had actually gone to law school. I got into SMU law.
No, I will take podcasting and talk about television any day.
I don't have a creepy painting in my office. But,
well, we can fix that.
All right.
Yeah. Well, you guys can't see the creepy stuff that's behind the cameras.
We got a few Gacy's up on the wall.
It's really terrifying.
It's really uncomfortable. That's why we look at each other during the show.
Yeah.
You don't want
to stay focused, so we don't have to look at
that. It's our engineer Eddie is just like eyes on the monitor, just like I'm watching you.
I think that's the episode.
Yeah, that's the overall episode. Why don't we? I just want to get you after we talked about it. Overall, like thoughts on the episode. What did you guys think?
I thought it was worth giving this after show a thumbs up. So if you're on YouTube, you should go ahead and do that right now.
It's right over there. Right
I'm
over there.
sorry,
Press the
Blake.
button.
Superliminal advertising.
Yeah, and thank you guys to everyone who's joining us in the chat roll. Jonathan Ma, It's Really, Dave G, Avery Johnson, FJ Guy, Jason L, all you guys. I'm sorry if I missed anybody, but thank you all for joining us live. And you guys can join us live every week. We'll be here next week at 6 p.m. again, Tuesday evening. And then after that, we'll be going at 7 p.m., shifting into a different time slot for the rest of the year. But we'll be live. Like, we wanted the extra time so that we could break down, we could really rewatch and break these episodes down.
Is this another 10-episode season?
Yes.
Yes, it's going to be 10 episodes.
Okay. Predictions?
Let's do predictions.
Sorry, I didn't mean to jump over you.
And now,
How soon do you think
AfterBuzz TV.
things will start falling apart for Jimmy McGill? Just, because last season we had that slow burn, and then it was just like everything was moving. Do you think like episode 3, 4, 5, 6? What do you think?
Well, we saw the teaser for the season, which was just like, looked like stuff was going nuts.
I didn't see it.
It's like somebody was yelling about fabricating evidence, and somebody was like, prove you can do one day without breaking the rules. I think that's going to be the big thing, is as soon as Jimmy has to get involved in like cases, and now that he's with a company, they're not going to be as like free with him, like to go dumpster diving for evidence or stuff like that. Like, he might be, it might be at a point where he's biting off more than he can chew.
Do you think he'll lose this job before the end of the season? Before the finale, even?
Oh, I'm sure he will, and that's
Yeah.
what I want to see. Is I actually want to see him at this job. I don't want him to lose it like the next episode, and I don't think he will. This is not the show for that quick turnaround. But yeah, I want to see it at least, towards the end. See how long he can hold it into this corporate world.
I think his brother dies in the next 4 episodes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I see that being a really pivotal moment, because I'm like, obviously we know that Chuck, something happens, but other than, their rift. So yeah, I'm
Well, we
curious to
don't
see,
know that Chuck is dead in
Yeah.
Breaking Bad. We just never see him.
I just think
We
that
know they fall out further
Yeah.
than they are right now.
as much as he doesn't care for his brother right now, you still want that acceptance, and he's still kind of, some of his decision making has to somehow a little bit do with his brother's acceptance.
Oh, well, I think now it's about proving, like, you're
Yeah.
wrong, dick.
So I think if there was anything to put him over the edge to actually go into law that he should be ashamed of, his brother passing away would be like, that's it.
Or possibly going into a mental institution. I could see that, because you've lost them, but they're still there, so it's almost worse than death, with this dementia. So I think, to me, I could see him being left alive, but in a dementia, worsening state.
Yeah.
flip that
The
around.
other preview that we got during Talking Saul was this quick little scene where the Playa SUV, the Playa Hummer, drives up to Mike's little toll booth, and Mike's just like, just go through, we're gonna have a chat. So I think, Steven, your prediction earlier about Daniel needing Jimmy's help is spot on, because I think like basically Mike's gonna be like, you need a good lawyer, I'm gonna refer you to Jimmy, and like, so this is it's gonna be his first like thing representing a criminal, being that lawyer for criminals. But now the question is, how is Davis and Maine going to take that? And it'll be really interesting to see how that all shakes out. And I think it's going to be a play between like this field that he could go into and this straight-laced life that it's a box he doesn't fit in. And what does that mean? And I think we're gonna find out next week, next Monday night, on the Better Call Saul episode 2. I'm very excited. This episode was fantastic. Tom Schnauz, writing and directing, did a great job. That is how you pronounce it. I checked.
All right.
And I'm excited for the rest of the season. Another great way to get a lot of these fun Easter eggs and stuff. There's a second screen experience that they do on AMC.com.
Oh, really?
I recommend it. It's fun. There's like polls and games and stuff. And they're just like, oh yeah, this little Easter egg. Like, check it out. So check it out. Until next week, guys. Lacretia, where can everyone keep up with you?
Again, if you can spell my name right, it's LACRETIALYON. You can find me all over the internet at that, and every Sunday here at AfterBuzz TV at 5:30 p.m. You can see me on the GH Report if you watch soap operas, and as well as the X-Files after show at 11 p.m. on Mondays.
You guys follow me on Twitter at Stephen Lemieux, STPHENLEMIUX, and check out my other network, the Popcorn Talk Network, where we have all the movie discussion you could ever need based on all the topics you can think of at the Popcorn Talk. Zach Wilson.
You guys can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and now YouTube as well at that Zach Wilson, THATZACHWILSON, and a whole bunch of shows here at AfterBuzz, including later tonight, The Muppets and Agent Carter after shows, as well as a slew of others. Find all those listed on my Twitter. Guys, until next week, I'm Zach Wilson, and thanks for geeking out with us.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Call you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.